So this is Ransom 1690 back here in the same day with yet another video. And you know, I don't mean to keep blowing y'all up with videos this soon like this, but it's like when I be out here walking, you know, it be kind of fucking boring and shit. And so I'm just not too idle. I think I'm just gonna start making videos like while I'm walking and shit. I mean, I already do, but you know, usually y'all just see me walking up the same street over and over again. But I'm talking about, like, you know, when I'm out like this, just crossing traffic and all of that shit, just, you know, new scenery and all of that. So I thought about just Ubering back to the house, but it's like I Ubered yesterday from the wreck to the grocery store to pick up some groceries. And then today I Ubered from the house up to the doctor place. And of course, y'all know how that turned out. So this is not my money that I'm using. You know, I'm actually using my brother's money. He was generous enough to allow me to do this for when it was necessary. And you know, you don't be wanting to take advantage of people like that. So I'm gonna fucking walk back to the house, you know, just to be considerate of his finances. And that's gonna play into this next thing I'm gonna talk about. You know, I'm gonna talk about this artist who I feel like I can really relate to. And you know, as far as his art goes, I mean, it's decent, but you know, it's really not my taste. Y'all know I'm into the more wacky fantasy type stuff. But you know, I'm gonna be talking about Van Gogh a bit because I find, me personally, his life story to be a lot more inspirational than his art. You know, I mean, he's someone who I've watched a ton of videos on, and of course, let me try to cross here. I don't know every fucking thing about him. You know, I'm not some huge historian who just knows about all these artists and shit. But it's like, you know, I'll be paying attention to what gets brought up in these documentaries. And I think they say he was kind of in the same position, you know, needing help from his older brother and stuff, because it's really a lot to get in with him, but he really didn't have a job like that, at least later on in his life when he decided to pursue the arts. So he was getting help from his brother and stuff, and like, you know, like his brother would just send him money to do what he needed to survive and shit. And I guess he kind of, like, you know, had issues too, where like his mom wasn't really good like that. You know, I guess his mom was kind of not close to him. I don't want to say abusive because they don't really get into that, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, she wasn't the best parent. And it's like, I find his story about when he first started art really interesting, because when he first started to paint, you know, he didn't want to paint all those bright scenery, sunshine type shit that everyone else was fucking doing in the museums and shit. And I think, like, you know, the height of all that with the fucking, what's it called? The Impressionism movement that was going on around that time. And like it was going on predominantly around Paris and shit. And he, everyone just wanted to paint this fucking illusion that I was talking about the last time. Like bright sunny skies, people out and about just, whoops, let me fucking cross. But yeah, people out and about enjoying themselves and just this whole shitty illusion that's going on called life. Well, he didn't want to paint all of that. He wanted to paint the reality, the darker side of life and what was going on in the ghettos and shit. So he started out painting peasants. And this guy, parts of his life, it single-handedly, in my opinion, destroys a lot of this illusion we got going on right now. Because I didn't know that, he tried to be a priest before all of that. And so he would try to go live in these ghettos and try to, help the people out. And I think they say he would give up his house and his belongings. Like, he actually practiced what he fucking preached. How it say in the Bible, in the New Testament, where Jesus is talking about something, sell all that you have and follow me and you will have greater rewards in heaven. Well, it turns out he did all that shit. He gave to the fucking poor. And he lived as a pauper, I guess you can say. But it didn't look good for the church organization, so-called. I guess he was making them look bad because, no church man of God is supposed to look like that. I don't know. So they kicked his ass out the fucking church. And that just really makes me think, so here this guy is, he's actually following the fucking Bible and doing what Jesus says to do, which is to help the less fortunate and to give to the poor and to not be concerned about materialistic things. And so you kick his ass out the church because it was bringing shame upon the church because he just they don't fucking say, but it really just sounded like they had a stick stuck up their ass, just being real judgmental. And it's like, that just proves a lot of this shit in this world, especially this religious shit, it's bullshit. A whole lot of fucking people don't practice what they fucking preach. And with my mom being a big example of that. And so I guess after he got kicked out of the church, he just decided to stay in the ghetto and start painting this shit. He really wanted to bring attention to all the horrors that was going on within the lives of these less fortunate people. But because it wasn't all the bright, sunny skies and water ponds and all of that shit, didn't no one want to fucking pay attention to his shit. And I think that's really telling of society. A lot of society just want to fucking delude themselves and just not pay attention to these things, and it's kind of like what my sister be telling me, you just look at the negative. There is so much positives in the world, just you haven't reached outside of your little bubble. And I'm like, yeah, because in order to reach outside of this, in order to reach outside of the box to begin with, again, you have to fucking pay. You have to pay to travel. You have to pay to even experience another culture. to go to these places where, you know, it's really something interesting going on. You have to pay money for it. So again, the entire joys of this life is locked behind a paywall, like I said last video. But it's like, just like with these fucking museums around the time of Van Gogh, they didn't want to consider that. They just wanted to pretend that everything was peachy and creams, everything was fine and good. And Van Gogh just said, no, fuck that. You know, I'm gonna show y'all exactly what's going on in this world that y'all don't want to look at. And it was like that at first, but you know, I guess later on in his career, he started to follow the trend a little bit more. And you know, that's nothing to say anything bad about him or his art. You know, I respect him, even, you know, like even with his whole his whole change in tone of like what his art represented. Because for the most part, it really didn't seem like he fucking had much of a support system to like really rely on in this life. And you know, I'll be feeling that same type of way, just how everyone kind of judge him, I guess. Like, you know, how they threw him in mental institutions for having these mania episodes. And it's like, how do you know that it wasn't the fucking conditions of this life making him freak out like the way he was? How do you know that it wasn't the bullshit he was dealing with in this reality and the stuff that he was seeing that was making him just do crazy type shit, like cutting off his hearing type stuff? You don't fucking know, because nobody asks those kinds of questions. And there's so many times I look at this life, and man, I just be fucking thinking like, what the fuck kind of shit was I brought into? Well, how do you know he wasn't thinking that way as well? So who knows, maybe his change in tone from painting all of that dark shit to painting more bright light type stuff, maybe that's a form of cope. And that's really what it sounded like, you know, just when they was talking about it, that the pictures he started painting later on, it just became his cope for dealing with this shitty reality, you know, for dealing with having parents who were not the best, who weren't really loving like that, for like, you know, just people not really understanding him. And you know, and he had a lot of bad habits and shit. And just like we all do, you know, he was just a regular person. And it's like, when you living in this reality and you gotta put up with so much bullshit, then it's gonna be hard, and at least in my opinion, to at least stay sane and to stay healthy in this reality. Like, it's been some times where I just kind of freaked the fuck out, like where I was dealing with so much shit, and it's just that one small thing that made me just freak out, you know. And you don't know, a whole lot of people out here can just be one incident from just having a meltdown. And that really seems like what, like, you know, Van Gogh was going through. They don't say, all they say is that he had psychosis, but they don't fucking say what brought it on, or I mean, and of course, you know, considering the time period he was born, psychology and all that shit probably wasn't all that advanced as it is now. But, you know, how do you know that this life just wasn't making him freaking out the way that he was, you know? And so, like, I really relate to Van Gogh. Not so much the later half of his art, but just, again, mainly his life story. Just how he was suffering. And the only way he could deal with being alone in this, with being alone in this society was just to paint. Just paint it out, you know. And that's the same thing with me. Like, I don't have really a lot of people to turn to out here. I thought I had my family, but then of course, you know, I mean, well, I have my brother and my sister, but it's only so much they can do with limited finances. And you know, I'm on this SSI shit, and I really want to fucking get off of this shit. That's why, you know, I have been trying to go back to work and stuff, and why I'm trying to get my driver's license. I think if I get my driver's license, it'll kind of open up a bit more for me to do. But back on topic, you know, I thought I had family for the most part, but nah, like, you really are alone in this fucking world. You know, I found out that my mom is really just a piece of shit. You know, I find out, like, my dad's a piece of shit. Like, he didn't really, I mean, he abused my mom and the rest of us, me and my little bro, when he was around. So, and now that he's out the picture, he doesn't, like, you know, he don't call, he don't fucking, hey, how you doing? You need some help? Like, just, no. And that's really how I feel like, you know, not to fucking toot my own horn. I don't think this is nothing to fucking boast about, but I think some of what I'm going through in my life mirrors the life of Van Gogh. Cause it's like, other than his older brother, it really didn't seem like he fucking had any kind of support. Like, you know, just, I think they say he was getting criticized by both his mom and his dad. Like, his mom was extremely cold. Just, and it's like, all he had except for his older bro and what little money that he got sent was his art. You know, his art was the biggest companion in living day to day in this shitty existence. And it's like, you know, I just be really feeling that. And hold up, let me try to cross real quick. But yeah, and that's how I be feeling. Like, I don't feel that there is really anything out here that I have to keep me going in this society except for my drawing, except for the act of getting better and improving and being inspired. Like, if it wasn't for that, like, I'm gonna be honest, trying to wait for this light to turn. so I can walk. But anyway, if it wasn't for that, man, I probably would. Well, it ain't no probably to it. Man, I would have just exited by now. I would have fucking exited. Because when I look over my life before I really became an anti-natalist, the highlights of all that I have enjoyed that were pleasant, they were all copes. You know, me playing a video game or watching a good show or anime or some shit, or doing my art, they're all copes. And really my art is more than that. Like, it's something that I'm passionate about, but it still is also a cope, a really productive cope, but you know, a cope nonetheless. And if it wasn't for really just me doing my art, like, I would have fucking just exited. Because this life by itself is, not only is it boring as shit, but it's a lot of fucking, man, I hate when I have these brain farts like this. Like, you know, I be knowing what I want to say, but I can't get the fucking word out. I just forget exactly the word I want to use and shit. But hold up, let me try to see if I can get through this. Anyway, like, it's just a bunch of trivial bullshit to this life that just doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, again, needing to fucking pay and try to seek insurance and all this information just to receive value medical care. Having to go to fucking school to learn the majority of all this useless bullshit that you're not going to even use in life. And then when you fucking graduate, you gotta get a job or try to fucking go to college or go to trade school so you can have a higher chance of not being homeless. Let's just say it how it really fucking is. The only reason we're here doing all this shit is so we don't fucking suffer. And it's like, just, I know I kind of got off topic. I was talking about Van Gogh, but it's like, you know, it all fucking ties together, man. Just how the only thing he had in his life really was this fucking painting that he loved to do to get through all of these shitty experiences that he was going through in his life, you know, to get through being locked up in a psych ward and shit. And just remove all the copes, take away all the copes, and just have this life for what it is by itself. And it won't be fucking anything worth really being here for. Again, like, just looking at this life by itself without all the copes, without all the extracurricular activity, it's fucking trivial and boring as shit. It's just filled with a whole bunch of obligations you need to do just to fucking survive, yo. So, man, I think I relate to Van Gogh a lot because, again, if it wasn't for art, if it wasn't for my drawing, like, I would have fucking just exited by now. I do not enjoy any of the experiences in this damn society. You know? What? Just shitty parents, being around shitty parents who feel like they're entitled just because they brought you here, having to fucking pay for everything. having to fucking do bullshit like going to work or trying to seek higher education just so you can be an asset to some damn company who don't give a shit about you. Like, what? But, man, that's just my take on it. And you know, and more on this Van Gogh thing, I think it's really funny that, you know, even after he started following the trend, people still didn't like his shit. It wasn't until after he died, after living a predominantly miserable life of suffering, that, oh, all of a sudden now his work is popular. And, you know, these fucking rich bankers and assholes, they started cashing in on it. Yeah, now he's popular. Now he's famous. When he's already fucking dead, but when he was alive, didn't no one give a damn about his shit. And that speaks a lot about this society. You know, people just want to fucking use you and take advantage of you. No one here actually cares about you. I'm in Hobby Lobby right now. I think I'll just browse around, you know, just to kind of have something to do. But that's my video for now. I'm almost back at the house halfway. But yeah, I'll get back to y'all with another one.